Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, the podcast about music, news, and interviews. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here today with Alex of Mayday Parade. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm not sure if everyone knows what I do, but I play guitar for Mayday Parade. Been there from the beginning, helped form the band, and so it could be here.
We're chatting today because you're about to go out on Sad Summer Fest, the fifth year of Sad Summer Fest. Tell us a little bit about that, and you're headlining this year, which sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah. So, Sad Summer is a festival that we kind of created with the main to kind of fill that void that Warped Tour left. I think alternative music and like emo, pop punk, whatever you call it, kind of has a deep association with summer and summer festivals. So it was kind of natural to create a festival that captures that. And I think a lot of the thinking was, let's take what worked with Warped Tour and tweak it a little bit, make it something a little bit more unique from Warped Tour, distinct from it, but kind of keeping the same vibe, the same kind of camaraderie, and a focus on whatever you want to call alternative pop punk style type of music. And it's an honor to be headlining it or like closing it each night. I think we switched off with the main every other show on the first time we did Sad Summer. So it's kind of a nice call back to the roots of, or like the start, whenever we started the tour, to kind of go back to both of our bands switching, or us closing. It's like it's a deep honor to be able to be the kind of capstone on a day that's filled with music. And I have such like a love for that summer, listening to live music in the summer, and being in like an amphitheater or something like that, and having that experience, and just being not only a part of it, but also like I said, like the capstone or like the finale of it, and hopefully leaving the lasting impression on people. That's such an honor.
I think I remember it was probably Warped Tour in Milwaukee in the amphitheater there. And they had like two stages kind of going back and forth, like on the same like giant stage, And I think it was Mayday that finished out that night too. And I remember it being like really like, the sun is setting. It's been a long day. I'm sweating. I'm tired, but I'm like, Mayday's going on. They're closing out the day. Like, we can't go anywhere yet. We got to stay. We got to watch this. And it was like, so really, to what your point, like, it's like a really nice moment where it's like, no matter what I've seen all day, no matter what I've done, like just being there until the last band plays, and like all the friendship and camaraderie you see like on the stage, and then like all of your friends, like, well, there's only one band. We all got to go watch Mayday end the day. It's just that, it's a really good feeling that certainly like people are doing. We have like When We Were Young, we have Sad Summer, we have like a lot of these other fests that they're also trying to like pick it up and run with it, but I don't mind if there's like 100, because that feeling is incredible.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I mean that's kind of the thinking too, is that you want it like on the band end, on my end of it, it's something like a festival, so creating and enriching, I don't know what the word is, nurturing a community only helps all the bands, only helps the scene as a whole. It's good for everyone. It doesn't need to be like, I think, when you do your own tour, or you headline your own tour, I mean, like Mayday we could do that, headline our own tour in the summer or whatever. But I think having a festival tour is, creating the tide the rising tide that lifts all boats, that kind of mentality. But going back to it too, like I remember, I think we did Sad Summer, not the last one, but the one before. Neck Deep would close often, and they would close with the song Bloom or In Bloom. I'm not sure what yet. But it was such a cool moment, especially that song ending the night, and like everyone's tired, like you're saying, been an odd sun, but having this like mellow song kind of like almost like a reflection on the day. It just created a really special effect, and knowing that like our music, our songs are going to be that for the day for people. You know, there could be this very special moment for them for their July or August or their whole summer or their whole year. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think too is that over the years we've seen the lineup kind of evolve and change as well. And this year you have a very stacked lineup of a lot of bands that like we really love and listen to, but to maybe somebody who's not as super embedded in the current music scene would say, oh, let me go early and check out these bands ideally. So what can you say about some of these bands like Hot Milk, Daisy Grenade, and a plethora of others that are on this year's Sad Summer Fest lineup?
Yeah, Hot Milk. I know we did Sad Summer with them the last time we did it. They're awesome. You know, really great stage presence, great music. You know, and also it's really difficult to have that great stage presence and to capture a crowd when you're kind of in the opening slots. When you're, you know, people are just kind of like meandering in. It's hard to capture them a bit. You know, Hot Milk certainly did a good job. Daisy Grenade, I'm not so familiar with, but you know, I feel like it's the hope is that this festival is something that people will show up early for, to catch those opening acts and to try and get a read on, like, you know, the up and coming artists, I guess. And I guess that, yeah, but with some of the other festivals, it could be more like hierarchical and more like, yeah, I don't want to say like ego driven, but there is a bit of a separation of like, okay, this is just kind of filler to kind of get you to the bands that people actually want to see. That I think is not at all what we wanted Sad Summer to be. And it's, you know, definitely wanting to create a lot of value for fans, but also not have like, there's no filler. It's just kind of like creating an album or writing music, you know, making sure that everyone on there is worthy and, you know, will entertain people and be a quality experience for fans. And yeah, I think it's not the easiest job. I mean, Mayday, we did that as well. Like, worked for plenty of times having to be, you know, when we first started out, and having to be that open, or even when we play festivals overseas, sometimes, you know, opening like a stage. It's not an easy role and not an easy one, you know, especially when you're playing the first or like the big stage with Sad Summer. You know, it's not like the side stages. You're playing like the amphitheater or whatever, and playing in front of like a room or whatever, the amphitheater that's a fourth of the way filled or a third of the way filled because people are still just kind of trickling in. It's not easy, but it's certainly a good way to kind of like, what is it, like cut your teeth or whatever, kind of get an experience of how can I be compelling to these fans? How can I grab them? And I feel like if you can do that, you can kind of get that experience and kind of learn. You take that, and then when you play a club show or in an indoor venue in front of, you know, 500 to 1,500 people, it's so easy. It's like nothing, you know? So I feel like it's a really great experience. Plus, I mean, you know, I think the hardest part probably is the heat,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah. We're
loading on and off stage, and then actually like playing
yeah.
at the hottest point of the day.
We in when it comes through Chicago where we are, it'll be on an outdoor stage. Is it outdoors at every venue? Like, is that like a major piece of it? Like having that outdoor experience?
Well, you know, I think maybe for initially the thought was like, yeah, you want it to be the outdoor. And like I was saying before, having the outdoor festivals are really special. Like, but I mean, like in Chicago, Milwaukee, I just, you know, specifically thinking of like Worcester, Massachusetts, or Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia date at the, I forgot the name, but it's like across the river from Philadelphia. Those are like really special when it's outside, but also it's kind of predicated on the
Always, yeah.
When it's very hot, it's amazing. That's one of the nice things about about Sad Summer is that it can adapt to the inside stages. So like I think at the Atlanta date is at the Roxy, which is like an operetta, and it's inside. And Atlanta I mean, we would play Lakewood Amphitheater with Warped Tour, and it'd be so hot, and inevitably it would rain, and you'd be loading your gear, like having to deal with all the rain or rain delay or some, it's just, there's some good and bad components to the outdoor thing. Sad Summer it's nice that it's
Yeah.
It always feels better to be in an outdoor venue, but like we just had the 20 Years of Tears tour with like Hawthorne and them come through, and that was supposed to be on the same stage that Sad Summer's coming on, but it was raining that day, and I was like, I really don't love the idea of standing outside in the rain. I'm going to because I already did it. If Warped Tour it rained, it's like I'm going there. I'm going to be outdoors.
I mean, it would vibe for the entire lineup
it would
too.
Been perfect.
Like it would have been perfect.
Like the vibes are still good and they're accurate and they're appropriate for the rain.
Yeah. It's funny, because I mean, even saying that, like I think maybe the last time we did Sad Summer, we in Pontiac, Michigan, it rained one of the times, and it was so memorable, but it was also kind of like a part of the show. That is one of the nice things about it, is that you kind of roll with the punches, so to speak, and it becomes its own thing. It may not be exactly what you wanted, or like the thing that you hope that to convey to the fans there, to the audience. It may not be exactly what you planned, but it'll be something special. Because I've heard, people talk about that, like us playing miserable. That's great. And the fans being like stoked on that, and how that being a very memorable moment for them. And obviously that makes sense. And it may not be ideal. The whole time we all side stage and Derek, I'm sure, playing piano, are thinking, God, I hope I don't go but that it is something special and kind of.
You're like, if we survive this, it's going to be so badass.
Like everyone's going to be talking about it on TikTok. We're going to be so cool. Now, after Sad Summer Fest, you guys haven't released any new music recently, except for last year. Could we expect any new music from Mayday or anything further from you guys post Sad Summer Fest? You are playing When We Were Young Fest, and you're doing Lessons in Romantics in full. So there is that to look forward to.
Yeah, so we are. I think we teased it maybe Friday. And I think we were releasing a little bit more today. But yeah, we're releasing a song coming up right before Sad Summer. It's called Pretty Good to Feel Something. And, we were just in a studio like several months ago and recorded some music, and that's part of that. It's nice. It's very nice to be able to release new music, and continue to do it. I mean, we're at a point now where we're kind of, we have all the nostalgia songs, all like A Lesson in Romantics, that you were saying, and some middle stuff in there that I know fans enjoy hearing. And then we're still releasing music that we hope, we kind of testing the water to see if people respond to it. That's always the thing. It's like, will it become like a staple? Will the song become a staple in our set? Let's see. So this is that experimenting moment. So we'll find out. You'll have to tell me how it comes across when you see it.
We'll stand there in the back and be like, yeah.
We love it.
In the rain.
Yeah.
I know
so that one's outside. Mm-hmm. So I've actually been to the Salt Shed, but I think it was Under Oath, but I didn't. We were playing. It was I don't know how long y'all have been to Chicago, but last year we were there with Yellow Card. That same day I went to see Better
You did the
Lovers
exact same thing I did. I went to Better Lovers and then ran over to watch you guys at Northerly. Yeah. Exact same. And that was my first time being at the Salt Shed, and it seemed pretty cool. I know, from what I hear, we're outside. I was inside, but it seems you like that venue? So it's very new. So it's very well maintained. It's been around for 2 years now. It's been open.
Yeah, just barely 2 years. Yeah.
But I think our main takeaway would be it's very expensive. Tickets are expensive, and the drinks are expensive, and like all the stuff is expensive. But I think that comes with the territory of any like Live Nation venue, and maybe that's a little bit like inside baseball from like being in the scene and like talking to people.
They partner with Live Nation. It's technically a 16 on center venue.
Yeah, but it is very easy to get to. They have food. They have like outdoor vending. They have like a really nice, like it is like a really nice, like well, like kept venue because it's just so new. So the experience of being there is always great, and a lot of the like best tours we've had have come through Salt Shed. So it is like a really nice like venue to go to. We just did it was. The same night as 20 Years of Tears was also another concert at Northerly Island, which was Yellow Card again,
Third Eye Blind.
Blind.
And so I was like, I'm not doing that again. I'm just staying to see Hawthorne Heights, and like we're just gonna ride this whole show out. As much as I really want to see Yellow Card and Third Eye Blind, it's way harder to get to that venue than it is to just stay at Salt Shed and like just to hang out here.
Yeah, it was quite a. I remember being a little stressed out. I was kind of cutting it close.
Yeah, I was down at Yellow Card early, and I was watching Story of the Year, and then Brian's like, he's walking in, and he like hears them. He's like running up to me.
The day I die, I'm like,
and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Better Lovers was so good though, so I was like, worth seeing them. Yeah,
great. I mean, I'm a huge Every Time I Die fan, so anything. When Better Lovers was coming out, I was like, oh, thank God, there's something. Something to fill that void that Every Time I Die.
Exactly. And we'll cut this part out, but the new Keith Buckley band is not filling that void.
It's weird. I think I heard one song of theirs. It's weird. I love, as much as I love Every Time I Die, it's similar to my thing. Like I love Oasis, and I've always been more like interested in what Noel Gallagher does rather than Liam Gallagher stuff. And it's similar with Every Time I Die. Like for whatever reason, I'm more. Maybe it's with them at least. It's all guitar driven. I like Buckley's. Anything he writes is just brilliant to me. And as much as I like Keith Buckley's stuff, I've only listened to one song, Many Eyed Song. I don't know. It's a shame that they.
It really is. Really, well, I don't want to talk badly about anybody in that. I'll just say that like they opened for Thursday. The Many Eyes opened for Thursday, and it was very interesting watching the audience kind of like like how they felt about Many Eyes. Like a lot of people went in not knowing it was Keith Buckley's new band. A lot of people had never heard a song.
Sure, yeah.
And the other guys in the band just seem like it doesn't sound like Every Time I Die. It sounds like Keith Buckley singing with the new band. So you're like, is it just like my expectations? It's just that I want something else and they can't provide that. I don't know, but
it's so weird. And I was talking with a friend of mine about something sort of similar. They were formerly in a emo pop punk band and trying to do country now, or doing different style of music. And they're saying how much of a struggle it is because any fans that they have, they don't pulling them away from like, I don't sound like that anymore. This is how I sound now. Like trying to get fans on board with your new sound is difficult. And I mean, Mayday Parade, we haven't had to deal with that really. I mean, we like change our sound periodically and kind of go through different phases of, like the Black Lion Zero is different from, Monsters in the Closet or whatever. But, and that alone is difficult. I can't imagine having to like start new. Like, all right, this is my thing. Forget about what I did before my previous thing. This is my new thing.
Yeah, I think especially like the country scene, it's a lot more difficult. Like even if you are pretty established, because the country scene is so commercialized in the way that if you want to like get bigger, you do have to do these kind of like radio tours a lot of the time. Oh, yeah. And I found it, I used to work in corporate radio, and we had a country station. So we would see these different like artists come in like once a week, and they would send emails like, can you please sit in and like give us like a vibe check of what you think of this artist and if we should put them on the radio. And it was just like us in the radio station making those helpful decisions to their PDs. It was so crazy.
Yeah, it's such a different world that world. I feel like that's a lot more conventional. Like back whenever Mayday was trying to go at radio or have our go at radio, it was a lot of like trying to work radio stations, and it felt so unnatural for us because we were used to just releasing music and playing live shows. Like just playing everywhere we could, and this felt more like you gotta play your songs. It's got to sound good acoustically in that setting in front of 20 people or 10 to 20 people, and then you kind of have to be a personality and kind of make everyone your friend and sell yourself to the room. And I remember doing that in our Anywhere But Here days, and us being like, we don't have it. Like, this is not our wheelhouse. It's like 11 in the morning. We have a show tonight. We don't really feel like doing this. Feels like work. The show is like the fun part.
That's I always say, like, no one becomes a musician because they want to wake up at like 8 a.m. and go do something at 9, you know?
Well, now, I mean, it's funny because us being older, now the conversation is, we have to TikTok and social media is like everything. So we have to be constantly working that avenue. And to your point, it's such a jarring thing of like, okay, when I was younger, being a musician meant playing music and shows and writing. And now it's like, well, it's also, you have to cultivate your online presence. That's just as important as whatever content or whatever music you release. Your music is like a complementary piece of the content. Your brand.
Even with MySpace, it was like you would release a song and that would be the content, right? It's like you're still like you're maybe checking their page for like tour dates or like if they, if the band posted something on their MySpace page. But generally it was like just having a song that came from someone's MySpace, right? Like, oh, I'm going to put this on my page when people come visit it, or it's in my playlist on my page. Like that was still all you really had to do and now it's like, it is like, I have to not only make new music that gets posted and people can hear that, but they also have to like see me do a funny thing to it, or it has to be in the background of someone else's funny thing or whatever it is. And it's like, it was very different. Like even promoting on social media, like way back when it was like a lot less, I guess, fast and a lot of flashing light. I always, it's like flashing lights and like, you have to like kind of like, hey, look over here. I have a new song out. Please listen to it.
Right. Yeah. It's constantly like jangling keys. Yeah. Like, right. And also too, I think naturally, I mean, I think about the MySpace days where that was so natural for us because we were young, like that's how we communicated with our friends. Like that's how we, that was our social life. So it was very and nowadays I look at bands like Magnolia Park or something like younger bands that can naturally just do that because that's how they are. Communicate that way with their buddies, with their love life and their social life. All of it is on that platform. So it's very natural for them to utilize that. It's like skill that you learn, that they already know. For me, I don't really use that. Like, but it's obviously it's very important in understanding. And then I think the big thing is like, okay, maybe we don't need to be like do exactly like what a band that's in their 20s does, but we can do something that we feel good about, natural, that feels natural, organic, and it is kind of nice too. I think understanding like we don't necessarily need to be like funny or like make like a skit or be like so clever all the time. Honestly, a lot of times it's like, let's just have a video of Derek singing the song in this location. Or like, I know we did one where he was singing, I honestly can't remember it. I think it might have been from More Like the Crash. Or maybe, I don't know. A song that we did release at the Riverwalk in San Antonio. It's like, that's pretty low commitment. However, it's something that's engaging that you kind of create this visual element for the music because you need that because it's important. Now you can't just rely on a lyric video or music video.
Yeah. Well, speaking of TikTok, we're going to ask you 6 questions that we ask everybody. What is the most emo song you are listening to right now?
The most emo song that I am listening to right now. I mean, I feel like this is such a cop-out, but I have to. We're getting ready for Sad Summer, so I've been listening to the songs that we're going to be playing and rehearsing them, and it sucks because I want to tell you the song, I want to give you the real answer, but I probably shouldn't because it's it's a song that maybe this is a nice teaser. It's a song we don't normally play, but but it's by far in a way it is the most emo song probably that we've written, even more so than some of like Miserable Best or anything like that. It's very emo, made a great song. So there's that one, but the answer that I will give that I can say it's pretty good to feel something, which is our new single. So that is the most emo song that I'm listening to.
You guys are kind of that band that like, if somebody asked me that question, I'd probably be like, it's a Mayday Parade song for sure. Like anything off of Lesson is like, yeah, that's it's gotta be.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's funny because we have such a conception of the band that like the other guys in the band, maybe Derek doesn't, but I think some of the, we have a conception of like what we think we are. And then like going back to our catalog and like really listening to it, oh yeah, like we are so in a great way.
You're like, damn, we really made a generation really sad here, didn't we?
Yeah.
I look back upon it very fondly now, and at the time I was probably like, "Oh, I can't listen to Miserable at Best as often as I am."
You're like,
I'm unwell.
I'm about to collapse in desperation and sadness.
Right. Yeah.
All right. The next question we have: what was the inspiration behind creating Sad Summer Fest?
Yeah, the inspiration behind creating Sad Summer Fest was definitely filling the gap that Warped Tour left. I mean, having a summer festival that was tailored to alternative pop punk, music. That was, Warped Tour was such an integral part of our scene, and when that went away, it was like there was a huge void left. So we wanted to create something that kind of still could solidify and nurture that community that Warped Tour helped establish and cultivate.
And like we said earlier, we need a lot more of them. We need many of them, and we need.
Oh yeah, I mean the Is for Lovers thing.
Yeah,
is awesome. I love that they do that. Like when we were young itself is incredible. I think that's honestly it's such an interesting model itself because that I don't know. Like we played a festival in Brazil that felt like I don't know what happened. The way that felt was like, oh, this is something I don't know, like something unique to our scene and definitely like a movement. I don't know, very cool.
I do think it's another thing of this scene too is with Warped Tour and with When We Were Young and all this. Like we kind of want like a lot of bands on it. Like we don't want just like a 3-bill show or a 4-bill show. Like we want like. I think when we were young, sometimes I'm like, there's way too many fucking bands on this, but I'm like, a Warped Tour day of like 30 bands or something like that, like didn't seem outlandish. And it seemed like for being a teenager, a good value, a full day, like a long day. And like you finding new bands and you have that experience of like, I don't know everybody on this. There's no way I can know everybody on this. And that's what's exciting is I go in and I hear something that might pique my interest. And now all of a sudden I have a new favorite band.
Yeah. Oh, such value. I mean, the first When We Were Young, the one that we did 2 years ago, some friends of mine came and I helped them out with guest list, and I went out in the crowd and was with them. And the whole time I was like, damn, this is such a like if this is like your scene, if you like 5 of these bands, this is an incredible thing for you because you get to see all of them, and they did a great job of like making you comfortable. Such value.
Yeah,
sure.
I think too.
And that's.
I was about to say you go.
Well, I was going to say, I guess, that's what I think all festivals need to, and us as for Sad Summer, like, certainly want to create that. And hopefully, yeah, like what you were saying earlier, the bands, the lineup, I think, hopefully is reflective of that.
Yep.
Yeah. I think this is an era where we're like, oh, everything is so expensive too. But if you can just like total how much I would pay to see Mayday individually or the Wonder Years individually, or like, I mean, last time we saw Hot Milk was Lollapalooza. So if we like factor all those costs in, we're like, this ticket price is totally realistic.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Next question. This is probably from the scene where you guys are from. I know you're from Florida, but I don't know the exact city you're from in Florida. The question is, what is the music scene like in the city where you're from?
Yeah. So Mayday Parade is from Tallahassee, Florida, and the music scene there, sadly, I am so disconnected from that now. I left Tallahassee maybe 10 years ago, and even still, when I was living there, we were on tour so much, like from probably after 2008. 2008 is probably the last time that I felt like aware of what was going on in that city musically. But back then, it was also interesting too, because there was such a disconnect between locals and kids at the university. So Mayday Parade came out of like the local scene. It was anyone in any band local. And I mean, there was few people from out of the city. Whereas at Florida State, it's like or in PMU as well, have plenty of people there from South Florida, from elsewhere in the state or country, the world probably, that play music. So I know, like, it's funny, when I'd go back to Tallahassee, I would see bands like play at like bars, say like jazz bands or whatever, or like fusion funk bands, whatever. And I'm like, I've never heard of this. I don't know any of these people. Like, where do they practice? Because I feel like, when Mayday Parade was coming up, we practiced in one warehouse with all the other local bands. Yeah. But yeah, so there's that answer. Now I live in Nashville, and Nashville is just so much more there. The music scene is like so vibrant. I mean, I don't even think you could. It's difficult to have like a beat on any one section of it.
I know. There's a lot of musicians moving to Nashville. More so than LA, it feels like. It feels like most of, like, especially the emo bands and the pop punk bands, like people are either in LA because they've always been in LA, or they're all moving to Nashville, like, recently.
It's so funny too, because I think there's such a natural, right, there's like two streams, right? If you're an emo person, if you're a Warped Tour kid, you either go to the like bedroom pop route in LA, or you go country. I feel like there's a nice pipeline to country, because it's like especially the Russian Kelly stuff, or like there's such a nice crossover that like really works and makes sense. I know so many people, ex-Warped Tour people, that are like in country now, and it's like, it makes so much sense. It's a nice, awesome community for sure.
And we were we do the emo night here in Chicago too. I'm the Chicago rep, and she's also a DJ with us there. And we had Aaron Gillespie come out, and he was talking about him living in Nashville, and he was like, I basically just like have a studio and record music, and it like pays my bills, and I get to like hang out and work on a bunch of artists. I wouldn't play any country, but I mean, I guess the almost is like country enough for Aaron Gillespie, I suppose. And then he's like, I just get to work with all these bands and then go out and play my hardcore music whenever, a tour hits. It's like,
he's a great example of that. Someone that's really done a great job of blending that. And I feel like the lyrical content is not that far off. Like, there's some like cliches in emo just as much as country that you just kind of like, substitute home or like even the like, I want to leave my home. That was that trope.
Yes.
Like, you just gotta like ditch or like move to pickup truck.
Yeah, you're like, I'm hitching up my pickup truck and I'm driving down the dirt road, where the other one's like, I'm running away from my parents' house. It all works the same way.
Yeah.
All right, our next question here. Why and how were the acts on this year's lineup of Sad Summer Fest chosen?
I think a lot of it was just kind of getting bands that we knew that would fit the bill, fit like what we want to do, and also kind of harken back to how the tour started. I mean, Wonder Years, us in the name for sure, is like roots of Sad Summer. Like Knuckle Puck, Real Friends, all that are very, they're like close friends of ours, but all, like we toured a lot with them. But I think like they're such a staple of the scene, but kind of like I think like a comfort blanket almost of like, of music on the scene. So I feel like it works really well. Having We the Kinks is really cool because I don't think we've toured with them. I can't even remember the last time we toured with them. So I think just looking back, I think it's just like a bunch of buddies and trying to make this thing that feels concise and tight and just like, oh yeah, this is what Sad Summer is. No crazy curveballs. Not this year, maybe next year.
What would be a crazy curveball that you would want to see? Like an act in general that you'd be like, I don't know if the kids are going to like it, but they might like it and really like fuck with it.
Well, it's funny because, I mean, I don't know, we were talking about everything earlier. I always wish that we could have like a Better Lovers or a hardcore band play. Because honestly, that was it was funny, we did, I think Nemo's Not Dead cruise earlier this year. And we were with like Devil Wears Prada and Bless the Fall. And these are bands that like I would see every other year on Warped Tour. Like every other year, like became buddies with them those years, and the same with Every Time I Die. Would see them every year that we played. And like, but you wouldn't see them any other time. Like because we would never tour with them. It would never, or those things never aligned. That was the only time, and it was so frustrating. It's like, oh wow, this is so cool. Like I wish we could do that on Sad Summer, but it's so difficult with the one stage. That is like the downside of it, of the one stage where you can't, like having curveballs is tough because you have to have it. I think when Mayday last did it, having Water Parks and Neck Deep, Water Parks is probably like a bit of a curveball. I think, they're great and like, have like, great music and great presence, but they're having to kind of figure out like how do Water Parks bands and Neck Deep bands, how do they sit together in a venue? So it gets tough. I would like to see like I said, hardcore or like, I don't know, honestly, country or like rap or some artists, because going back to the Warped Tour parallel, Warped Tour would have, I think Eminem played Warped Tour, right? Or like way back in the day. And that's incredible. That's such a cool thing that they have.
Yeah. I think that would work. I mean, I think
like rap has been like so much more popular, especially with like emo rap over the last few years. I think there's a lot more people who are more receptive and open to rap nowadays. I think it would go off if you have the right person on that lineup.
Right. And you have to find the right person. And it's tough too. The thing that you run into a lot of times is if you have finding someone that's not too big, that's on the perfect level, because as soon as someone gets like moderate name recognition, it gets very difficult because they know their worth. And they're like, well, I like going back to, they're like, I could do my own headlining tour or a better support option rather than, that's one of the things that we've struggled with Sad Summer, I think, is like, Warped Tour before it ended, I think had a thing of like, you don't need to convince people to believe in it, like meaning the bands or agents or managers or labels. You don't have to convince them like, no, this is important. Everyone understood. You said Summer, it's like, no, like, this is important. Please, help it. Like, this is a growing thing that we're trying, like a plant that we're trying to water and see grow that will bear so much fruit for everyone. But getting everyone on board with that, to make like little sacrifices. Maybe you're not getting paid as much as you think that you're worth, but later on down the road, you help expand something that will help you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Two more questions. What type of collab would you like to do, and with who? I feel like you've had a long career in the scene, and so you probably worked with a lot of the other artists. But maybe if it's like an emo rap artist or a country artist or something like that, like, is there anything like that you'd like to do? And is it a song? Is it a producer? Is it any option?
It's tough. I mean, my mind, like, immediately, I think whenever I ask this, I think of like Paramore. Working with Haley Williams is incredible. She's always been, always idolized her and always idolized her music and her writing and her ability. I mean, her voice is incredible. So it'd be so cool to see what we could do. And I feel like we, aspire to, or our music would work, I think, together. I know, like, Third Eye Blind is one that, like, Derek is a huge Third Eye Blind fan, and I feel like we sort of have a relationship with Stephen Jenkins, to where, like, we played a song with him before, I've, like, sort of spoken to him. So I think having working with him would be so cool, and having a song where Derek's featured on his song or vice versa would be amazing. Those are the first that I can think of. I mean, they're obvious, like working with a top tier producer like Max.
Oh yeah,
amazing. Anything that man has touched is gold. So like that would be so cool. And it's like legacy, like legend kind of music industry guy, and seeing how someone operates. Because that's the other side too. Is like we worked with John Feldman. We recorded with him several years ago, and he's such a legend for our music scene. And seeing how he operates, even if, like, regardless of what the end product was or what we created, seeing how his creative method, like, intimately, is so interesting, because it was very different from ours. So that's there's more to it, I think, than even what you get out of it.
It's a little bit of like the only reference I have is like a zombie movie where it's like, I'm going to eat your brains and gain your knowledge. And like, it's like, I just want to watch you work so that I can take it away from that. And like, like it's not necessarily about each song that comes out of it, but it could be about like what you've learned to like go make songs down the line, and even working with somebody else, like to like combine these two different ideas together later on is like worth it.
Yeah. I mean, like, this technique worked for him. He didn't, do this or that. Like, we don't, the thing that we were doing, we don't need to do that, because it's his thing that's working. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. All right. And then our last question is, can you tell us about the upcoming tour dates for Sad Summerfest?
Yeah. So, I know it starts in Sacramento on Thursday. And Saturday we're in Santa Ana. And then we quickly get out of the West and start heading east and go to Denver. And make our way through the Midwest, and then Northeast, or Midwest, South, I guess, and then end in the Northeast. And there's some highlights for sure. I think Chicago is always great. Every venue you play in Chicago, it's great. The audience there is amazing. But also playing the Rave in Milwaukee is a pleasure every time. It's such an iconic venue. Playing in, I'm trying to think, the Northeast is like so fun of mine, because playing in Asbury Park at Stone Pony at the outdoor stage is so cool. Like, you're on the beach. One of the best is Pier 17 in New York City. You're playing in front of the Brooklyn Bridge, so it's so picturesque. Playing in Worcester, Massachusetts, is always great. I think I know we're playing in a new place, at least for Mayday Parade, in Florida, in Clearwater. So that'll be interesting. because we've never played. We played St. Pete, but not Clearwater. So I don't know. There's a few of those. Even like the Salt Shed in Chicago will be very. I'm curious how that stage will be. Because some of them, like I was saying, like the raid, we played there so many times that you kind of what to expect, and you feel like a part of, like attached and with the venue. When you play somewhere new, you're like, I don't know. And playing it also too a new place in Chicago, like a city we played a million times, but a new place there. But honestly, it kind of feels like cheating on like some of that. Maybe like the House of Blues or some of the venues that we played before. But I'm very excited. Yeah.
I will say, outdoor at Salt Shed, you have a really nice like backdrop of the city.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. I guess we would.
The skyline and the river's right there, so you've got a lot.
It is very picturesque.
Very picturesque in Chicago.
Yeah.
Very
cool.
Do you want to shout out When We Were Young too? We've been doing a lot of When We Were Young stuff because we're just like really, this is our shit. Like we get to go and watch a bunch of albums we listen to. But if you want to shout that out too, you'll be doing that and playing less than, I don't know.
Yeah, right. So right in late October, we'll be at When We Were Young playing our first record, A Lesson in Romantics, front to back. It'll be amazing. I know a bunch of other bands are doing that too, are playing their big albums of theirs, front to back. So it's amazing always to be a part of that festival. Whenever we first did it, it was like unreal. It was a very unreal experience. So this will be. I'm excited about this one because the first one was like kind of overwhelming, kind of like I don't know, almost like shell shock kind of thing. But this will be, I think, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more like just as big and cool, but I'll be a little bit more able to like understand or like. Not
a little bit more prepared, understanding of what everything is here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, cool. If you want to let people know where they can find you on the internet, where they can find Mayday, where they can find all the dates for Sad Summerfest, where people should go to buy tickets and all that good stuff too.
Tell people to get there early. Cause also, you guys have a special Converse and Journeys collab for shoes. I just saw, earlier this morning and they look very cute.
Yeah. Well, is that Saddington?
Yeah. So it was Saddington the bear.
Yeah. I have that tattooed.
Oh, shit.
The last time we did it, Derek, Jake, and Bridget, our photographer, all got
Hell yeah.
Sorry.
If you want to like plug plugging everything, just like where they can find everything if they want to come early for the collaboration and all that sort of stuff. Just the last promo stuff,
Yeah. So I mean, we're all on Instagram. My Instagram is Mayday Alex. Obviously Mayday Parade, Sad Summer, all on Instagram. You can find that's where I go. When I'm searching out anything is one of the finest things. But yeah, you get your tickets through there. I think the collab, honestly, I saw, but I have so out of the mood for that. I'm sure you can just get it at the show.
It's fair. There you go.
Come to the show. Just come to the show. Get there early. See the maybe discover a band that you haven't heard. Either way, you'll have a good time.
Well, perfect.
Nice.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was. I'm gonna be real here for a second, but like I put a list together at the beginning of the year of like bands that I wanted to interview on the pod this year, and Mayday was at the top of the list. So I get to cross that off, and so thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for joining us. We're very excited to see you in a couple weeks at the gig here in Chicago, and we'll hang out and we'll high five and sing along in the sunset.
I love that. Yeah, Brian, Leslie, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, of course.
Really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you.